Hello, everyone. I'm here today with Lax and Berg Files. We're going to talk about Twitter's transaction with Elon Musk. A couple weeks ago, I thought Elon Musk had Twitter bought already, but then Lax talked with our students from our MBA program, and we learned that we're going to talk today with these two experts to understand a little more about what's going on with the new recent events where Elon Musk is now backing off or just slowing down, right? We're going to talk about a bit more about that. And right after the introduction.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? This is a global transmission. Hayek will be live in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Enjoy the show.
And we're back after the introduction. I hope you weren't expecting that one, right, Lex? Okay, so what is going on? Twitter Musk is talking about this the whole bots ordeal, and he's trying to negotiate down the price. Where are we at now in this transaction, Luxembourg?
I think it's wonderful. This is going to play. Lax and I were talking yesterday or the day before about Elon Musk, and she said, well, why didn't he do the due diligence ahead of the merger? Why didn't he do his homework before he went into it? And I said, I guess he probably did. and you go in and you understand that there's a whole bunch of fake bots out there, and you make your offer based upon the fact that there's got to be no more than 5% fake bots, which is what's essentially in Twitter's disclosures. So now he comes back after the tender, and gee, there seems to be more fake bots than we thought. In fact, 49% of the bots following the president are fake. It's like voters coming out of the grave in Chicago. This is just amazing. And I think he knew before he went in the amount of fake bots. Remember, this is a guy who can get a rocket to go into space and come back and land standing up. This is not a dumb guy. Blacks? Oh, you're mute.
Well, Burke, my thoughts on Elon Musk is he has a cult following, right? There is a group of people who believe everything Elon Musk says. Yes, he has Tesla, SpaceX, and you name it. He's very ambitious. And, in our society, we have a tendency to believe and take it at face value from people like Elon Musk. You have the reputation, education to back it up, and hence the cult formation. With respect to Twitter, I have a couple of insights. People are giving too much thoughts into everything Elon Musk says. He is trolling, or the real intention is him buying Twitter is going to be a huge risk for Tesla and Tesla shareholders. He cannot go on a random rant about buying Twitter and on the verge of getting very political. As a CEO of a publicly traded company, being political and being a troll comes at a huge price. And Tesla shareholders, I don't know anyone in that group, but I'm sure Tesla shareholders are not happy with Elon Musk's stunt. The sad part is no one really could know what he is up to.
Well, you think about the Tesla shareholders. If they've been in Tesla for any amount of time, they've done very, very well. It's been a wonderful investment for the investors. But take a look at poor Twitter. I mean, Jack Dorsey leaves, and he lives a technologist Prague in charge of Twitter, and Twitter has gone sideways. I was disgusted, honestly, disgusted. This is the leader of Twitter. This is the leader. It's a dead duck. I can't get this thing to focus. There we go. A duck. He gets up there and he says, "I'm a lame duck with Twitter going on." That's absolutely ridiculous. The guy's getting paid $1 million a year, had 12 million, probably now 6 million in Twitter stock. This is they need to go. The board, honestly, it doesn't matter what happens, whether Elon takes over or not. This board needs to leave. Comment from Prague on free speech. It was I picked this up yesterday. It was an interview, an MIT Technology Review. Let me get this right. When asked about freedom of speech, our role is not to be bound by the First Amendment, but our role is to serve a healthy public conversation. Focus less on thinking about free speech, but thinking about how the times have changed. No, I mean, curating free speech isn't free speech. And this is the entire idea behind deplatforming people, getting rid of speech that you don't like. This is curbing Twitter. And part of Twitter's value is that database of tweets, the database of sentiment that the participants on Twitter come up with. And that sentiment is inauthentic now. It wasn't great to begin with, but it's terribly inauthentic now because it has been culled. It has been culled by Twitter. So if you're buying Twitter for some of the value of that sentiment that the tweets provide, you're going to find out that your sentiment is, well, skewed. Twitter is being damaged, not led, but damaged by the current leadership. So I welcome a healthy rip into the Twitter management.
So, Bert, let me explore that point a little bit.
Sure.
You said that the board is not doing a good job. What exactly should the board be doing, or what is it that they have done wrong?
They've done three things that are not so good. One, they came in the last 2 years and they essentially have sat there. What innovations have you seen in Twitter in 2 years? Thank you. Nothing. All right. They've got an incredibly powerful company, and the job of the board is to see that shareholder value goes up. Shareholder value has not gone up. They've coasted. Twitter is going to be replaced by what I don't know. Now, there are other social media platforms that they're less strict, that are more inviting, and that's where people are gravitating to. People are setting up competition to Twitter. Why? Because Twitter deplatforms people they don't like. I mean, the entire idea of social media is to have an open, if sometimes inappropriate, discussions. Can you imagine being deplatformed by your family if you said something inappropriate around the dinner table? I mean, we'd all be gone. We'd all be gone. So, and the next thing is, what else can Twitter provide? Twitter has got an incredibly large following internationally, other than a few countries. What else could Twitter provide internationally? And the answer is a lot of stuff, but they haven't explored it. So what is Prague doing? He's just coasting. He's what, 35, 37 years old, $1 million a year, millions of dollars in Twitter stock, and he's just coasting. This is inappropriate behavior for the CEO of a company that is owned by shareholders.
What do you think about that, Lex?
Well, unfortunately, there are certain points that I disagree. One of them being Twitter. I'm sure when Twitter positioned itself as a platform to share one's thinking, not in a paragraph, but within like a line or two, I believe they didn't realize the potential of Twitter when they started the company, the true potential. So when you create a platform like Twitter or Facebook, we all know what Mark Zuckerberg is going through in Europe, especially where they have a new content laws. But when you create a platform where everyone can share their thoughts, people, there will be problems, especially when politicians started to use Twitter to convey something on the go, then things will get complicated, and Twitter's management need to foresee this and figure out a way where they stand as a publicly traded company. So I'm a strong believer of Constitution, First Amendment. However, you cannot scream fire in a crowded theater. So it's Twitter's management failed terribly. And if people like Elon Musk, who has very good ability to troll everything, uh, regardless of the consequences that trolling might have on the financial status of a company, where Twitter's management failed terribly, and the board did not do anything because they didn't foresee how they have to moderate, if so, a certain tone of speech, what strategies they need to keep in place in order to protect the freedom of speech, while at the same time channelize the conversation that are indirectly triggering, problems around the world. And Twitter's management failed terribly.
You talk, yeah,
Yeah, at this point, um,
I agree with you.
yeah, at this point, the Twitter's management or the board, they are clueless how to control this platform. They lost control of the platform the second they did not perceive the true capability of Twitter platform. So they lost control. Now everybody, Elon Musk, if not Elon Musk, somebody else is going to come and tell Twitter what to do and what not to do, unless there is a change in management. But
I agree. And you talk about where Twitter made itself vulnerable to a takeover. Um, you know, take a look at the people on Twitter that are essentially leaking insider information on public companies. Why are they not deplatformed? Um, one of the ones that I remember one tweet was celebrating Nelson Mandela, but it was a photo of an American actor instead of Nelson Mandela. It was just hysterical fails. Why are these things not called? Why is the inside information not called? It's just people who apparently are overly sensitive are being called. And this is what makes Twitter vulnerable to some type of takeover. Now I look at Elon Musk's bid. I'm going to assume that it is an authentic bid. How would you go after Twitter? Well, do you want to pay full price? I don't want to pay full price. This is me. So you take a look at where Twitter's flaws. Twitter's flaws are in the bots and in their disclosure. And there's a substantial difference between what's in the disclosure and what Musk apparently has found. He's found that maybe 15% or better of the traffic on Twitter is fake. Wow. This puts Twitter in the crosshairs. Even if Musk doesn't go through with the acquisition, if you're an advertiser and you realize that 15 to 20% of your money is going out to computer bots, how happy are you going to be with Twitter? You're not. And
where was that information before? Nobody knew there were bots? Or?
I'm certain they knew, but no one was testing Twitter. No one is going out and actually actively testing it. And now you have one of the most creative guys in finance and business, Elon Musk, gets his team to go out there and test it, and they start finding these things. I'm sure Twitter knew how many were bots. So now you have a problem for Twitter's management called liability. They have failed either in their deeds or in what they have failed to do to discover the bots and get rid of them. Deplatforming something you don't find as popular is one thing, but you're letting a whole bunch of bots go out there and artificially drive up your viewership. This is going to cream advertising revenue, and it's going to develop it's going to develop into a shareholder class action suit against Twitter. This is not going away. Musk may or may not close, but this is not going away. This is horrid management on behalf of Twitter, from bad to horrid. This is where you go from I have an error to deceit. Twitter's got a big problem. Musk has opened a can of worms that's not going to be closed. I mean, all right. I asked earlier, Lax, you got your fly swatter?
No, Bark.
Really? Got to get a fly swatter, even a rolled up magazine.
No, I don't have any here.
This is an Elon Musk fly swatter. This is an electric fly swatter. And this is what he's going to do to the Twitter leadership. He's going to fry him. And it's because they put themselves up to it. Musk has a problem of his Tesla shareholders, and I get what he's doing. He's leveraging his illiquid assets in Tesla stock to buy Twitter. I think in time he will probably close. It's still probably about a 50-50, but Twitter is damaged. Twitter is really damaged.
So go ahead, Lex.
Well, I unfortunately disagree with Burke again. Elon never intended to buy Twitter. Elon is known for trolling. He's known for trolling SEC. He's known for trolling and annoying everybody who could listen. Yes, he is creative. And that is the notion of, yes, he's dreaming big. Yes, you can see Tesla on the road. Yes, he has ambition to completely change the future. However, if you take Elon's word just like that, you're going to be in for a lot of disappointment. To know Elon, you have to understand his past business dealings and the past trolling. He has done this before. He has done like a year or 2 years ago, I can't remember. He said he wants to take Tesla private. Then he backed out and said, oh no, we are not going to take Tesla private. What happens is it's similar to what, again, I blame Twitter's management for not understanding the depth and the power of Twitter as a platform. When politicians and especially CEOs of publicly traded companies use Twitter's platform to say anything, it has a direct impact in the market, right? It has a direct impact. So you have a fiduciary responsibility as a CEO of a publicly traded company, with all due respect, to keep your mouth shut on certain thoughts. You are obligated to keep certain thoughts to yourself. And Elon Musk did not do that. He could easily go to Twitter and say, I do not like all the bots, let's do it. He could have easily done off the record, get the deal done, squat it off, and come online and say, we just realized we are going to close on Twitter, buying Twitter for A, B, and C reasons. He didn't do that. He went on Twitter and said, I'm going to buy Twitter. After increasing his share count in the Twitter, he went on Twitter saying that I'm going to take over Twitter. And then if you saw our first podcast, we said the timeline. Yes, I'm going to join the board. No, I'm not going to join the board. The reason he backed out of joining Twitter's board is because if you were a part of a board, you are obligated by the fiduciary duty of a board member. So which indirectly means he needs to keep his mouth shut. And Elon don't want to do that. So he backed out of the Twitter board member. So no, Elon is. I don't think he ever had the intent to buy Twitter. He could not care less. He just loved trolling, and he cannot risk Tesla and SpaceX and all his shareholders in those two companies. He cannot put them at risk by going after Twitter.
I agree with you 100% that if he was going to acquire Twitter, the last place he needs to be, either acquire or troll Twitter, is to be on the board. A board position introduces entirely too much liability. I can see where the impulsive was, yeah, I'll be on the board, and his attorney's calling up going, this is
Elon Musk,
unwise.
Elon
Come
Musk, Elon Musk is a walking liability and a risk, and he always throws SEC. I am surprised how Tesla shareholders are tolerating this. If you're a Tesla shareholder, you're tolerating your founder, going off the handle on Twitter. This is ridiculous, and that's how you see. I speak to certain contrarians who've been on Tesla stock for years, and they call Elon Musk as the most perfect con man. And if you go through the financial, if you go through the bottom line, it's he's very articulate, he's very ambitious, and unfortunately, in our society, we overlook facts because that person is charming, because the person is ambitious, he's futuristic, and this is one of the several stunts that Elon Musk have pulled.
Oh, there was a great commentator on the American Way of Life, H.L. Mencken, if you've not read some of his stuff. He said, the people the American public detests the most are people who tell them the truth. They absolutely love the most charming, outrageous, and the biggest liars.
And that is true, because this is why we have 2008 crisis. We are going to have another one that is 10 times worse. And every time we believe, oh, this time it's going to be different. Enron, nobody cared to question them because they are all charming, smart, as always.
It's like
And
long-term capital management. Smartest guys in the room blew up the economy. Here's when I look at Twitter and Musk, it comes down to a couple of things. Twitter has made itself vulnerable because of terrible management, and that management is not looking out for what is best for the Twitter shareholder. Why is Twitter an interesting acquisition? Twitter's an interesting acquisition because there's so much value sitting in Twitter that is not being used.
Yeah.
There's a lot of opportunity there that the board has either failed to unlock or refuses to unlock because of their little safety position about
or
curated
they are just
speech.
clueless.
Oh, the board is just atrocious.
Yeah.
Absolutely atrocious. So now we look at someone who's got a lot of money who can acquire an opinion maker, and Twitter in many cases is an opinion maker. And lo and behold, he finds out, wait a minute, hold it, shock, there are fake accounts on Twitter. It is to Twitter's benefit to have those fake accounts so they can inflate the number of impressions that people have. Twitter is not going to survive. The board on Twitter is not going to survive this acquisition. They're either going to be lost in the acquisition if it does go through, and if it doesn't go through, they're going to be sued out of existence and they're going to have to resign. The process of Elon Musk going after the company has laid bare all the falsehoods and the misrepresentations appear that come from that have come from them. And I think what you might find is in the near future, Jack Dorsey coming back to take over Twitter for a short period of time for another group of shareholders to buy.
I think Jack Dorsey is so busy with Square, or Block, should I call it? They changed the name because he's focusing into the blockchain segment. I have a feeling that Jack Dorsey, he doesn't want anything to do with Twitter. One of the options I do see is Twitter management need to take Twitter private, figure out what their actual business model is, and how they can strategize, by encouraging freedom of speech while, policing certain information. And if there are any bots, if there are, who is triggering, they have to figure out, Twitter management and board have to figure out so many details, because like I mentioned before, they did not realize the impact Twitter will be having in the political world, in the financial world. So now they have responsibility on their hands and they're clueless. So the
I
best
absolutely
option is
agree
to
with
take
you there.
private and figure it out.
So if I was to go through and predict in the looking glass, which is kind of what we do, Lax, in our research, um, I think Twitter will be acquired, but it's going to be acquired by Musk or someone else in the neighborhood of where it's trading now at about between $30 and $35 a share. It's not worth what Musk was bidding on it. It will not close at that amount. Now, Twitter thinks, oh, good, if he doesn't close, there's $1 billion there. No, there's not $1 billion there because Twitter has vastly misrepresented the amount of traffic it has in their public documents. Musk is not going to have to pay the $1 billion due to their misrepresentations.
Can
And
I?
again, it's either
Go-
they failed to do, they did intentionally, they failed to do their homework on the disclosure to the shareholders and the bots. I'm sorry, Edison.
Yeah, I'm just curious about how this works, because Elon Musk made a bid of, I don't know, around $50 per share for Twitter, but now he's negotiating back the price, saying that there are bots all over. How does this work? Isn't it how would you say he have to keep the same price that he bid it in the first time? Can he just negotiate back once he has done the bid?
Sure.
So he can. There's no. He can't just say I'm gonna pay for 50 and then later say no, I'm not gonna pay 50 anymore. I'm just gonna pay 36.
In any underwriting agreement or acquisition agreement, there's a series of statements, and I like to call them a market out clause. There's something wrong with the market, there's something wrong with the company, therefore I can withdraw from this agreement. And you have substantial misrepresentation of Twitter in their filings that only about 5% of their traffic are bots. I mean, this morning, looking at 49% of the presidents of the United States traffic are bots is an embarrassment to both the president and to Twitter. And Twitter would have better ability to defend its brand if they didn't do so much content moderation and they were better get rid of the bots. But they're doing a lot of content moderation and they're not dealing with the bots. So they've got it exactly reversed.
Do you? I'm just curious. As a researcher, I look at facts. Do we know for a fact that there are bots, and what are the strategies or steps that one took to identify the bots? And if there are bots, there should be a way to pinpoint the source. So when you, Burke, or anyone else, or Elon Musk, anyone talking about bots, I don't disagree that everything is organic. I mean, I agree that there are bots, but my question is, what's the source in identifying the bots? How do you identify an account? I'm as a researcher, I'm just curious as to the process involved in identifying an account as a bot, and who is leading that process.
You know, I am not a technologist. I do know from speaking to other technologists that bots are hard to identify, but typically a bot will act how it's programmed. So something comes out on Mr. Smith, and the bots immediately respond, "Oh, Mr. Smith is wonderful. Mr. Smith is great." Or "Mr. Smith is horrid. Mr. Smith should be deplatformed." You'll see that these bots will have the same type of almost programmed, well, obviously programmed response. Um, they're very good at content moderation when someone is offended. They should be equally as good at getting rid of bots when the messages are nonsense.
So, Lex, you believe that the bots are not necessarily all bots. So Musk could be bluffing, saying that he found I don't know what percentage of bots.
Well, as an independent researcher, I look at facts. And when something is stated, right, I'm a contrarian as well. When something is stated, I don't take that at face value. I want to see the proof, right? So when you're when you're going through a financial statements, or when you're going through any kind of statement, you read it and you form an opinion, and then you question, okay, why is this a fact? So unless I see a process that is in place that can identify bots, and if no one can pinpoint a process to identify a bot, my question is, well, how do you know there is a bot? And how do you, at the same time, how do you know there are no bots? So it's just, we need to understand the process. So if Musk takes the platform and says, oh, there are only 5% of Twitter feeds are bots, okay, show me the 5%. How do you come up with the 5%? So you take the entire tweets in a given day, or you take an entire tweet in a given month, and you do what to find what? Right?
And it's interesting that Musk claims that the fake or the spam accounts are 3 to 4 times what Twitter claims. And then apparently yesterday, Twitter's CEO publicly refused to show proof of less than 5%. That's an alarm bell. You're a researcher. I'm a financial investigator. I don't trust anything that comes across my desk. So you dig into it, and where are the facts, where's the corroboration? And when you have the CEO refuse to show his calculations or their calculations on less than 5% spam or fake bot accounts, that's an alarm bell in my book. There's something going wrong. And Musk's acquisition has exposed something that, quite frankly, is going to be a problem for Twitter moving forward. Assuming Musk grabs them, it's going to be a much lower price amount. If he doesn't grab them, Twitter is still going to have a much lower price amount until they get a handle on the fact that a large amount of their traffic so far seems to be fake.
Well, Burke, that's something I agree with.
Let's not have this agreement.
No, it's just that there are bots, right? In 2015, Defense Advanced Research Project Agency ran, I believe, a contest on how to detect Twitter bot. So participants pretty much trained their systems to identify fake accounts using some like 5 data points. So the results are interesting. 40% the programming to identify the bots worked 40% of the time. However, it cannot detect the bots 100% perfect. So of course you can do it without any technology. You can say, if an account doesn't have a picture, or if a link or any bio, you can deem that as a bot. But then again, you don't have a proof to say that it's a bot. Even the machine language had a hard time identifying this account as a bot 100% of the time. It's only a 40% there's a chance that it's a bot or not a bot. So
Mhm.
my question is, there are bots, but how Twitter is going to identify them?
Yeah, I mean, it's an age-old question in advertisement. How many impressions am I buying? With magazines, it was how many subscribers do you have? Then how many paid subscribers do you have? Then you'd go back to the mailings. Let me see your post office certificate of how many copies you've sent out. And the same thing went for TV advertising. This is why you had the Nielsen ratings. The Nielsen would rate a show based upon the number of viewers. And we don't have anything like that, I'm aware of, for social media, a third party source to review the social media and the number of impressions you get. At this point in time, it's self-certification,
Yeah.
and it's self-serving to self-certify higher so you can generate more revenue. There's a perverse incentive here that is playing out, and Musk's acquisition, at this point, in my head, it may or may not go through. I'm 50-50 on it, but Musk's acquisition attempt has exposed a number of problems with Twitter. I would not want to be a Twitter shareholder.
I have a question. So on this, let's say we're talking about here a due diligence to understand what if bots are the number that Musk says it is, or whatever the CEO says it is, of Twitter. And if I'm the seller, if I'm the shareholder right now, and
Mhm.
I'm selling my shares, this is information that I would want to know with some confidence, like you're saying. And
Mhm.
what you're saying is that there's no independent source to verify today how these bots are if the bots are real or not. So I couldn't hire a big four company audit company to audit these bots today, right? So what's the alternative exactly to verify if these bots are real or not?
I don't know. I don't know. Um, the I mean, really, at this point in time, if you're an advertiser, you're going to have to run an advertising campaign and have some type of way of monitoring it to see what the feedback is, such as get a free coupon for a pound of butter. All you have to do is click here and click there, and we'll mail you the coupon or we'll email you the coupon. And you got to find out some way to self monitor and self certify for you how that traffic is working for you. You have to test it first. Um, and there's some good questions in there. What if Elon did this to expose some of the problems of Twitter, like the shadow ban? Good question. Don't know. It's a pretty expensive test for the shadow ban. Um, you know, did he get more followers by going after Twitter? I have no idea. I have no idea. But as Lax says, is he a show pony and likes to say it's all about me? Of course he is. I love it. I love watching it. It's better than TV. Um, do I love the what's going to go on with Twitter and the financial mischief that appears to be afoot? Just appears to be afoot. Yes, I'm going to love it. Um, kind of my last comment. Here we go. We're with the duck, and this is Twitter and management. It's going to go like that.
Well, it's
They're dead ducks.
and interesting question on shadow ban. Then the concept appeared a while ago on the internet. It's pretty much questioning, and it goes back to, I think Burke and I have discussed this in another podcast on the European Union's content ban. I think we discussed in the first episode.
Yeah.
And who's going to police the internet? Because when Twitter, Facebook, they all started, it was a very new technology that gives everybody a platform to talk, to share what's on their mind. So people are very in this world, people are very skittish in having any kind of confrontation face to face. They're afraid of disagreements, but online they are very comfortable. And I do not believe that Twitter, Facebook, and other social media platform factored that kind of psychology or human psychology into account when they started the firm. Now everybody is saying everything, and the shareholders and the management, like Jack Dorsey or Mark Zuckerberg, are having problem putting a leash on their platform. Now the question is, how are we going to do it in our country? Because in Europe, European Unions, the content law, if you read through it line by line, it's very, very strict. So it's like if you are saying in person a statement to another person, how it's, you are legally bound by what's coming out of your mouth, any kind of threat. It applies pretty much online as well. So is United States going to follow the same content rule? We don't know. But Twitter has to abide by that rule in Europe.
Yep.
So it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out.
It is. And, at least Twitter has proved one philosophical point incorrect. What was the old philosopher said? Given an infinite number of typewriters and an infinite number of monkeys, one can type all the great works. Well, Twitter and email both prove that wrong.
Great. Just to close it off here, then, Burke and Lax. Burke, do you believe the Twitter transaction is going to close and Elon Musk is going to buy it?
I was absolutely certain in our last podcast he was going to buy it. Now I'm on the fence 50-50.
Okay. What about you, Lax? Do you believe Elon Musk is going to buy
In the first
Twitter?
podcast, I said it's all troll. He's not going to buy it, and I'm standing by my statement.
All right. I'm going to say my opinion. I really want Musk to buy it because I'm a fan of Musk, and I like the idea of this capitalist going after the big company. However, I really don't know, and I'm very curious to see what's going to happen.
Well, with Musk's personality, you give somebody like that a power over Twitter, it's going to be a nightmare. So even though it's a free market, Musk is going to have problem with Tesla shareholder, and it's not going to go well. So it's going to be a financially and strategically, reputation wise, a bad move for Musk. But it's been an interesting discussion.
Thank you, Lax, for your time and all your expertise. Thank you, Burke.
You got it. This is good fun. Good conversation around the dinner table. I hope we're all at the same table soon.
For people watching us, thank you, and we'll see you next time.